Hi, everybody. Jamie Zachary here again, host of The Exchange. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited today because this episode is going to be sweet, quite literally. We are talking all things cocoa, and in particular, sustainability in the cocoa industry. And we've brought two experts in this field to talk about cocoa and sustainability, Aldo Marino and Pedro Moran. Hey, guys, thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you, Jamie. It's a pleasure to be here.
My name is Aldo Marino, and I work as a policy manager for environment and sustainability at the European Cocoa Association, ECA. I was born and raised in Rome. I hold a master's degree in international relations. And before joining ECA in 2019, I have been working as an EU policy advisor for the Italian Footwear Manufacturers Association.
So Pedro Moran here. I'm the global director of the food product lines at Solex. I've been in Solex now for a while, over 12 years, and been involved mainly with many different food applications and in business development, being in close contact with our customers all over the world.
Let's get this started. Throw it over to our guest, Aldo. You had mentioned, obviously, you work for the European Cocoa Association. Tell me a little bit more about ECA, its mandate, and who you guys represent.
The European Cocoa Association is a trade association that groups the major European companies involved in the cocoa bean trade and processing, but also in warehousing and logistical activities in Europe. Together, our members' companies represent 2/3 of Europe cocoa beans grinding, half of Europe industrial chocolate production, and almost half of the world production of cocoa liquor, powder, and butter. What we do on behalf of our members, we at ECA study, monitor, and report on all the developments affecting the European cocoa sector. It means at legislative level, but also under the scientific point of view.
Pedro, over to you. Solex is really known for our roots, I guess, coming out of the fertilizer industry, but we are very active in the food products which you oversee. But tell me, what's the connection between Solex and the cocoa industry?
Well, as you mentioned, Jamie, Solex is a solutions provider for the global industry, including food. And within food, we have provided solutions for applying our efficient technology for many applications. And one of them is the thermal treatment of cocoa. When handling the cocoa for producing the best chocolates, transforming the cocoa beans into chocolate, you have to take care of the beans. And considering you have to maintain the flavor, the texture, and the color, and that's really important. For that, it's really important to manage the temperature and the moisture. And this is where Solex came to play a role, providing some technologies that help the cocoa processors, main players in the industry, to use our technology for that. So we have some installations there, and we've been collaborating with some of the main players in the industry worldwide.
For the next question, Aldo, I'm going to throw this one over to you. At the top of this, I had mentioned that we're talking about not just cocoa, but sustainability in the cocoa industry. And I'd like to know a little bit about, when I say sustainability in the cocoa industry, what are the areas of focus for ECA when, I guess, discussing this topic?
Well, we at ECA, we monitor the developments related to a wide range of sustainability topics these days. And these are, and I'm listing, deforestation, labor matters in cocoa farming, notably related, of course, to child labor, due diligence regulations, certification schemes, in particular the ICO standard on sustainable and traceable cocoa, but also the new African regional cocoa sustainability standard. When it comes to sustainability, there are two elements that probably are worth to highlight. The first one is the work of the EU. We work at EU level. So we can see that the cocoa industry and the European Commission in particular share the same long-term goal of seeing in the future a sustainable cocoa sector. The second is the link between business and sustainability. Of course, this is nothing new, but sustainability topics are now at the center of our members' work. They have already a strategic orientation on sustainability risks, impact, and on the opportunities into the overall company strategy. Customers and clients are already requiring companies to be sustainable in all the aspects of their business model. And ECA members have already made significant progress in putting sustainability at the core of their activities.
Maybe for this next one, I'm going to throw it over to you, Pedro. We went from, I guess, as a world, 0 to 100 on ESG being important. Not that it wasn't always important. We had sustainability principles in practice, but particularly around ESG, it feels like it just went really quick, right away. And in really all industries, and in a lot of cases, in conversations that you and I have had, it's been really tied to efficiency. So I guess my question, my roundabout question here is, how is that drive for improved efficiency linked with producers wanting to be more sustainable, particularly around reducing plant emissions and reducing energy consumption and that kind of stuff?
Well, it's a bit linked with what Aldo mentioned earlier, and I think there are three factors affecting the driven of the processors to become more efficient. First is obviously the regulations. In different jurisdictions, you have different regulations. We see, especially in Europe, that the environmental protection regulations are normally quite more strict than in other areas. And companies based in Europe need to comply with those regulations. Second aspect is the cost. There's a global economy nowadays, and there's competition everywhere. And obviously, the producers need to be efficient to reduce their costs, and the energy is one of them. So, whenever you can, utilize waste energy or recover energy in your process, you're saving cost. And the third one is what Aldo mentioned: is customers are more aware of what they are buying, and they want to know what is being used for producing. So it's also adding value to the final product.
The recent 2020 Cocoa Barometer was pretty scathing in its report on sustainability progress in the cocoa industry. And I quote, one of the lines in there was, "Good intentions combined with a lack of accountability." Specifically identified the lack of mandatory targets and non-compliance policies to blame. So a roundabout way, perhaps, and I'll throw this out to both of you, but perhaps Aldo will get you to start. What dual role do you think more stringent regulations will be, but on the flip side, more attractive incentives will be moving forward in encouraging companies to, be a little bit more active?
The European Commission will propose a due diligence mandatory legislation in later this year, in 2021. And in this regard, our members clearly support the introduction of a mandatory regulation, a mandatory due diligence legislation. And this will include mandatory targets and compliance by all the actors in the supply chain. Our association, ECA, has been very vocal on this on the past years. And when it comes to this dual role, the compliance with the EU regulation will be obviously necessary to access the EU market. So it will play a role. And regarding the incentives, the encouragement, this will also come up through the financing opportunities offered by the Team Europe initiative, for example. I don't know if you are familiar with the Team Europe initiative, but this is The European Union will, of course, introduce mandatory due diligence legislation, but also contribute with 25 million to improve the sustainability of cocoa production in Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Cameroon, where the first, the second, and the fifth biggest cocoa producer worldwide.
No, I think it's good to see that the European Union is taking the lead on this, because at the end of the day, we need to look at sustainability from a global perspective, and it's been quite positive, the changes that we've seen politically in some areas in the world where, for example, the new US administration is coming back to the Paris Protocol, and that's encouraging for other countries.
Picking up a couple things that you have said there, Aldo, in the course of our conversation, you had mentioned due diligence several times. Let's dig into that a little bit. Tell me, when saying due diligence, what are we talking about as it relates to processing and environmental concerns?
Yes, so our members, ECA companies, individually, but also through multi-stakeholder approach, have a strong commitment and had a strong commitment during the last years to take action to monitor, prevent, mitigate, and remedy adverse human rights and environmental impacts of their cocoa on their own operation in their supply chains. This is for us the meaning of due diligence. When it comes to human rights, due diligence, progress has been made in terms of developing systemic intervention to address, for example, of course, child labor. But we recognize that these have not been sufficient to reach the results needed. Regarding the environmental due diligence, in much the same way, voluntary company initiatives can only be effective if also a number of local conditions are met. So our companies are working, are cleaning, let's say, their supply chain, complying with EU regulations, but there are governing producing countries that needs to be met for this to be meaningful. National forest policies, updating the mapping, social safeguards. These are all things that need to be updated at governing producing countries level.
We're getting close to the end of our time here, and it's been a great conversation so far. So thank you in advance, Pedro and Aldo, for taking part and lending your time and talking about sustainability in the cocoa industry. Aldo, throw this one over to you. If we've interested our, not readers, but I guess our viewers enough that they want to stay updated on what's going on in the cocoa industry, more particularly what the ECA is doing, where would you suggest they look?
I suggest to look at our website, which is eurococo.com, but also follow us on our social media, which are Twitter and LinkedIn mostly.
Well, as always, I like to sign off by just saying a heartfelt thank you. We're going through unprecedented times right now. These conversations are great opportunities to get together and talk with our colleagues a little bit. And again, I just want to thank both of you for your time today and wish you all the best.
Well, thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Aldo. It's been a pleasure to share some time with you, and I'm looking forward to hopefully meet you in person in the near future sometime when we are able to travel again.
And thank you very much, Jamie and Pedro, for this very, very good exchange.
Awesome. Okay, take care, guys. Be safe.